All right, and welcome to Hat Trick Sports Talk, our first Sunday post show of the 2020 NFL
Woo!
season. It is a good feeling to watch football on a Sunday, that's for sure, especially after what was a pretty
Indeed.
long off season. I'm joined, as always, by Brannan. Shane's not here with us, but I got my good buddy Brandon with me. How you doing today, man?
Pretty good, there's no better feeling than sitting down and watching 7 hours of football. Well, not
Well,
exactly
it,
seven
it,
hours
it
for
would
me,
be a
but
full day. It would be a full day.
basically there's no better feeling than vegging out on football all day long.
Yeah.
And what an interesting day of football it was, my friend.
Yes, we have a couple of rants and a couple of interesting tidbits. We're gonna start every Sunday post show that we have this season with Sunday Night Football, Cowboys Rams. So first thing with this game for me is I feel like throughout Sunday I felt we saw a few teams feel a little bit rejuvenated, and I thought the Rams were one of those teams. So let's start with that. Do you feel like the Rams and their style of play today felt like the 2018 Rams that we saw made the Super Bowl, or are you not feeling that way?
I'm not quite believing in them. I think they looked like a better team. Like after today, if I was gonna stack the NFC and if I was gonna stack the NFC West in terms of like power rankings, I would go Seattle, Arizona, LA, San Fran. That would be my stacking.
I still put San Fran over them
Um,
still, even after today.
I just feel like San Fran, and we could get into this later, but I feel like San Fran just looked really sloppy to me.
Yeah.
But
Um,
LA, yes, I do believe they look rejuvenated. However, I think they're gonna have a really hard time in a super stacked NFC West
and
as well
that's
as
the
a
biggest thing.
super stacked NFC.
Right. But from what we saw, so a couple things. One is, remember when Gurley was injured and could only play a few snaps, and he just didn't feel like himself, and how
Yeah.
the Rams were almost forced into this whole running back by committee thing, and it
Right.
looked awful. It seemed like McVay this entire offseason and in training camp was like, okay, we know we're going running back by committee. We're not really going to tell anybody that we're doing it, but we're going to make our offense work as if these three guys, Cam Akers, and all these other pieces, we're going to make all three of these running backs work in tandem to give us a sense of Gurley production to help Goff. And not only that, Goff had to throw the ball really fast today, and because he did that, he looked a lot better.
Well, I would say this. I would say that I would make the argument that when you don't have a superstar running back, by definition, you have to go by committee.
Right.
Um, and I do believe that helped them. One thing I found interesting was a lot of people I was seeing on Twitter were like, "Oh my God, Cowboys! They're hitting so many different targets." But yet, it still came down to the same problem they have year after year after year. I never felt like they were getting. I never once felt like Dak was getting any sort of connection with any of his wide receivers tonight.
Here's the deal
No,
with Dak, though, and this is the biggest problem with Dak. Dak is only as good as the talent around him.
true.
And you can make the argument that this offense is the best talent he's had since his rookie year.
Right.
The receiving group is phenomenal. Zeke is Zeke. And let's be honest, Tony Pollard looks better this year
But
as
he
a third
doesn't.
down
It,
guy.
it just didn't feel. It still to me doesn't feel like he has that connection
Right.
with his wide receivers. Like, don't get me wrong, Dallas Cowboys, very talented team.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that. We all know that they try and be like the shiny object in the league. Like, ooh, look at us. We have all the fancy players. It just didn't seem fluid to me.
How much are they to you? Here's where I compare the Cowboys. How much of it to you feels like the Browns, except more complete with McCarthy? Because in
Well,
terms of talent, it's very similar. But the fact that you got McCarthy, OC, and Kellen Moore, there is some camaraderie there
Well,
already.
hell, man, like that. You want to talk about teams that are like shiny objects and can't do anything? The Browns, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Right, but I'm comparing that the Cowboys are almost a slightly better version of the Browns due to the culture
Yeah,
that they have.
yeah, I would agree. I would say that's pretty accurate. I just think like, yeah, they're very similar. They're just both kind of flashy teams that believe that if you put a lot of talent on the field, you're going to succeed. Whereas, arguably, you could argue that football is not about just having flashy players. It's more about players that can click together, you know?
And at least with the Cowboys, you can make an argument that week in, week out, they can win games. Whereas the Browns,
Uh,
I mean, you
I don't
could
know,
make an
man.
argument.
You could, but I mean, I have two eyes, and I watched the last 4 games of last season, and I've watched the last like 5 years where they've had essentially the same situation every year going into it, where people go, "Oh, the Cowboys, they're going to be a Super Bowl contender," and then you know what happens.
They finish 8-8, and that's kind of
Yeah.
it. Do you feel like going to a specific play in that game? Do you feel like or Michael Gallup, deserved to be called for offensive pass interference at the end of that game?
Yes,
I
I
don't.
do.
But say your piece first.
I mean, I've all I've seen from that is a screenshot, and to be honest, I'd have to go back and watch the actual like clip,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to have a full sense of it. But to me, it looked like he pushed off. I mean, so I just saw the clip on replay on Sports Center, and mm, I actually would argue that should have been defensive pass interference. If anything, seeing the video,
Yeah.
because like it looked like the guy had his hand like up inside his arm.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Here's the biggest thing that I always come to with plays like this. And I have some caveats. I've had caveats in recent years with this thought process. But especially when it comes to pass interference, regardless offense or defense, I mean, it's so weird to see offensive pass interference. Like we saw a few of them today, and it just felt weird. But my thought process is always in a close game where they're battling it out, let them play. And with that specific play in particular, I felt like let them play. And, it's fine. Michael Gallup, made a huge catch. That's a catch. Let's move on. Instead of, oh, yeah, I remember Saints Rams a couple years ago, close game. That's not a let him play thing because that was clearly egregious.
Right.
But this is not egregious. This is not egregious enough for me to call, especially offensive pass interference. Not as much defensive, but offensive, yeah, I felt like they were both battling, and that was it. I felt like it's let the refs play. That's what I always say, is let the refs play unless, and this is one of my big caveats, especially after that Saints-Rams game a couple of years ago, if it's really that bad, then you should call it either way. But that's always been my approach to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's our rant for the week. And I'm going to start. And I want to start because I've been thinking about this literally for the last hour. We're recording this around 10 o'clock at night on Sunday. So here's the thing. Tom Brady, right?
Right.
Here's the reality with Brady. The last, let's say, 2 years, let's more specifically go last year. Let's do last year just for safety for this point. Last year, what was the rhetoric around New England and around the country? The rhetoric was Brady's still phenomenal. He just doesn't have good receivers. And Brady felt the same way. And so he's like, all right, I'm going to go to Tampa where I have so much talent around me offensively. I can throw it wherever. I'm going to be good. Then I watched the game today, and I sat there going, this is the Patriots last year. That's what this is. And this is not a week one overreaction because we watched it last year. Go watch the Titans-Patriots game last year, wild card round, and then go back and and watch this game. You saw this game today. Go back and watch Titans-Patriots from last year. It's literally the same game. It's literally exactly the same because I kept getting this feeling throughout that entire game where I went, oh, God, Brady doesn't trust his receivers. He doesn't.
Which is very strange.
And
because the man claims he went there because he was excited about the pieces.
So, but really quick. So here's the deal. In this game tonight, he didn't trust anybody. The only guy he really trusted was Scotty Miller. And honestly, Chris Godwin had more targets, but Scotty Miller was the only guy he really trusted. Brady has a trust problem with his receivers.
I mean, I think he's paranoid.
You feel like it's a paranoid thing. Why?
Yeah. Because Tom Brady has succeeded at such a high level. I think it's paranoia, and I think it's Tom Brady kind of having to deal with the fact that, holy shit, I'm not the Tom Brady that I used to be. I'm not the man who used to be able to just rocket the ball downfield. I mean,
some of those can.
But those were looking very Peyton Manning-esque to me, some of his throws. They were looking real duckish.
That's sorry, where I disagree.
Robert. They were looking really duckish. And it's just no slight on Tom Brady, right? The man is 41 years old.
It's 43.
43. The man is 43 years old. He should, in reality, your arm strength is not going to be the same as when you were, 21 or 23, whatever. It's just natural,
My biggest thing with Brady is I still feel like physically he's 43 going on 30 physically. I've always felt that way about Brady.
But what about mentally?
That's the problem. That's the problem. The problem that I have is he has literally the most weapons of anyone in the league. Even Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the kind of weapons that this guy has. And yet he doesn't have the confidence to say, let me just throw it to these guys. Mike Evans, you know what? I'll excuse him. He had a hamstring. I was expecting him to not perform well. But Godwin only getting 7 targets. Scotty Miller only having 6. Not even to mention that the running game was garbage today.
Yeah.
Other than one big run by Ronald Jones.
Yeah.
It's honestly just so – I mean, I get it. Last year we were all kind of complaining about, oh, yeah, the receiver core isn't good. But I'm sorry. This proves that wasn't the case at all.
I mean, weirdly – I swear, I had a moment sitting there going, if I squint well enough, I could swear I'm watching the Bucs from last year. Just
in some ways.
A quarterback, a great receiving core, an okay running back core, and a quarterback who's making bad decisions throwing the ball. Half sometimes and making good decisions other times. That throw he made into coverage that got intercepted was
the pick
atrocious.
6. Yeah, it was atrocious. The thing is, I don't even have to squint. My eyes are wide open, and I'm watching Patriots Titans from last year.
In a way, I was joking, but
right. But I get you were joking. But do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, I get it.
It's so similar.
Yeah. And it's kind of unfortunate, I'm starting to think Tom Brady's downfall will be his mental state.
Because physically, I still think he can perform.
Yeah.
I just feel like I feel like this whole thing is ridiculous. He just has to get out of his head and play football.
Yeah.
And trust who's around him. And yet he can't. And yet he has Bruce Arians, who's an offensive coach, who basically rebuilt Carson Palmer's career. Have some confidence.
Yeah.
This isn't hard. When it's Tom Brady and how much he focuses on his body and how much he focuses on his game, this isn't hard.
You do also have to think about the fact that this is a man who spent the last how many years of his spent his entire career in one place, being quite literally the most beloved man in an entire state.
Yeah.
and now he's in a new foreign land. Like,
and again, I gotta preface this. This is not a week one overreaction take.
right.
This is not even close. Watch
Yeah.
the Patriots last year. It's
Yeah.
exactly the same. The tape is out there. It's
So
the same thing.
Are you saying that you think Tom Brady's problem was mental last year?
Yes.
N'Keal
Harry is better than 12 targets.
Yeah, that's true.
That's an
I actually had kind of that thought during the playoff game against the Titans. There were times when he was just overthrowing people and just not hitting people when it just looked very un-Tom Brady-esque. And it's like, kind of in your head, aren't you there, Tom?
That's what it is. Because physically, I think he's 30 years old. I don't think he's 43. Let's move on to Brady's former team, the New England Patriots. Cam Newton. No, I get it. It's Miami, okay? We have to preface that this is Miami.
They looked rough, dude.
They look rough to you?
The Patriots, they're okay, here's my reasoning, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Patriots are a team made of string and bubblegum wrapped together with a bit of wish. Because they have old-ass Julian Edelman
Catching everything.
Cam Newton, and no one else, really. Because, okay, they got N'Keal Harry, my point is this. They are a team of old-ass players just waiting to be let go. And Cam Newton trying to make something happen. They scored 21 points against the Miami Dolphins. But if this is the motherfucking Patriots, excuse my language, of old, that we're supposed to be terrified of, 21 points against the Dolphins. Two of those touchdowns was your freaking quarterback running it in. You play anyone else in the league, you're not going to get 2 rushing touchdowns from Cam Newton.
Now, here's the point that I want to make to preface this. I am not saying that the Patriots are going to be a great team this year. I'm not saying that at all. They're not. They're probably going to get creamed by the Seahawks next week. And I'm just saying that because I have Seahawks stuff in the background. They're probably going to get creamed. It's a fact. They're probably going to get creamed. Or let's say Seahawks win by 10.
Yeah.
But this is my number one rejuvenation team. The team looks like they're headed into a new era. Bill Belichick loves Cam. McDaniels loves Cam. And you know why? Because I sat here all offseason talking to you guys and saying they're just going to make Cam throw the ball and he's going to be inaccurate and garbage. And yet, this offense was option-filled. Cam was running all over the place, using his frame, and I sat there going, okay, they love playing this style of offense.
But
I love it.
Yeah, but I would make the argument that that's literally how he got hurt last time.
That's fair. That's a fair argument.
He ran the ball so much when he was the quarterback for Carolina. They ran option play after option after option, and he got hurt, and he kept trying to play on it, and he got hurt even more. I don't think he will survive.
Do you think he'll play 16 games this year?
No. Not if he runs the ball this much. Yes, he is big, right? He's big, he's tall, he has a big frame. But the fact is, you're not supposed to he doesn't slide, right? That's
No, because he has such a big frame, he's not going to slide.
But if you get hit and hit like that, eventually you're going to get hurt.
And we've seen that countless times.
I've said the same thing about many quarterbacks. I've said the same thing about Lamar. I'll get back to that because I was actually he was my number one changed player for the day for week 1. My point is this, right? Cam Newton, throwing-wise, was not very good, in my opinion. I think
it was just Edelman that felt really good.
Right. I need to see him face an actually good team. Like, if he comes out and plays well against the Seahawks,
we got it next week. Yeah.
Then I'll be like, all right, this guy might be for real.
This team might be for real.
Right. Like, if the team can come out and lose by 10 or maybe somehow win or whatever, that would be a good like bench test, you know?
Yeah.
Because
the Dolphins aren't that team.
The Dolphins are – I don't know how their coach got another head coach job, but, like, good Lord.
They're not good talent-wise. It's not Flores. The reality with Cam Newton, I think, and this is something that I think we're both starting to realize with this conversation is, and I've said this all offseason about make Cam throw the ball more, they have to play this style.
Yeah.
But the only reason they love it is because it's different. I mean, they feel like they can do so much more with it than Brady last year.
I'll say this before we move on. Cam Newton, 15 for 19, 150 yards, 55 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions through the air. He ran the ball 15 times, 75 yards, 5 yards average, 2 touchdowns. He led the team in rushing.
That's Cam for you, right?
That is not feasible. I'm sorry.
That's not feasible to get to the playoffs if you're the Patriots.
Especially not feasible against teams in the AFC that are going to be able to figure out that your leading rusher is your quarterback, and they're going to be like, all right, cool, that gives us another 15 times to hit their quarterback every single game.
Mm-hmm.
Free. That is free times to hit the quarterback. Yeah. They don't even have to rush. They don't even have to go through a line. They just get to hit him as he's rushing.
Let's go to another team, as you've mentioned, that their quarterback is basically their primary rusher, and that's the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. You feel like he changed. Was I right in the offseason about my thoughts on Lamar or no?
So I would like to say that I believe that Lamar somehow heard my opinions on him and was like, oh, yes, Brannan believes that I should stop running the ball so much. That's great, you know? So let's see. Stats for Lamar Jackson. He did run the ball, but I would like to point something out. His stat line, throwing the ball through the air, 20 for 25 yards, 20 for 20. He was 20 for 25, 275 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air. Only 7 carries for 45 yards, 6.4 yard averages, no touchdowns, running the ball. That is amazing compared to last year.
It feels good.
I mean, and to be honest, I was terrified for this man. Like, all offseason, like, I like Shane and I both have been saying, like, he will get injured if he doesn't change his strategy.
His style.
Yeah. And it showed up. I mean, he looked, again, it's the Browns, but he looked very accurate. He looked ready to go, and, you know.
There are 3 important pieces to this as well, and why Lamar played like he did today. One is Hollywood Brown looks like Hollywood Brown. This is what we thought he would look like. He looks like himself. He played really well. Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins both are the perfect tandem for this offense. They make so much sense for what Lamar, or what they want Lamar to kind of change into, as you guys talked about. They can both share carries and help Lamar not have to worry about running the ball so much, especially J.K., because I think J.K. was someone when I look and I say, okay, yeah, he can help this offense more ways than one. I think he can even be a guy that can come out the backfield and catch some passes as well. But I think those 3 pieces are a big reason for this change. I think, as we're talking about Brady not trusting his guys, I think Lamar trusts this offense and trusts what the coaching staff is giving him, and they gave him J.K., they gave him Mark Ingram, they gave him Hollywood Brown. He's trusting in that, and then I think that's helping him change his play style.
Yeah, definitely.
And then let's move to the other game in the late window. That was an early window game. But the other interesting game in the late window was the Cardinals and the Niners. Lamar looks like Lamar. He looks like a guy Kyler looks like the guy that we expected. I was really hyped on. He looks great. And the Cardinals' schedule the next few weeks looks excellent. What is your feeling on the Niners, though, after tonight?
Whew, he looked rough. It looked rough. You
The
know,
whole team, or was it just Garoppolo for you?
there was something about this team that they got off to a rough start from the very beginning. I mean, I think the first play of the game or something, they tried running they did a run to the outside, on the right side of the line, and this is a routine play that probably would have gotten them 5 to 7 yards last year every time.
Mm-hmm.
It got shut down like big time. Like
By a D line that's not even that good.
yeah, it got shut down in the backfield and lost like 3 yards. And I was sitting there and I was going, "What the heck am I watching? Am I really watching a San Francisco that's supposedly supposed to like be this dominant team?" And I know it's week 1, and I give every team the benefit of the doubt to prove me wrong next week.
Or let's say the first month, but yes.
But oh my god, they were bad. Like the whole team, everyone. They just looked like they were still doing walkthroughs slightly.
It was weird in the sense that, like, it was funny to me how the Niners Olaf season got, like, no hype. Like, they were just like, the Niners.
Well, you know what it is? It's that everybody saw who they truly were in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
They're a team that yes, they got there, but they had a lead. They had the game. They got in literally one quarter, they got outclassed, outplayed, out footballed. And they got exposed for who they truly are. A good team that can't finish and doesn't do well when they're in distress. And frankly, they were in distress this whole game.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
And it was funny because we knew that Raheem Mostert would get a good lion's share of the carries.
Yeah.
And he did. I mean, he got 15 attempts, but let's be honest, like they had to kind of rely on Mostert because you didn't know about McKinnon, you didn't know about Coleman, and they didn't really get much run. I think that affected how Shanahan called this game a little bit because he's just so used to having these running backs on committee to help a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo set up the offense, set up the play action. And I always say have Jimmy throw. He threw it 33 times in this game. I don't even know if that's an excuse at this point. I feel like the fact that it was just Mostert doing everything kind of put this offense in a bad spot. And then defensively, when this is let's be honest, they will probably finish at the end of the year as a top 5 defense, regardless of this week. Kyler knows how to beat this defense. He's done it twice in his career, and he did it today, right? And I think that was the most surprising thing is that Kyler kind of just picked this defense apart, not only with his passing, but also with his running. And there were all the passes to DeAndre Hopkins were like on the sideline. They were difficult catches, but at the same time, I think Kyler's running ability along with his throwing ability made this Niners defense kind of fold in some degree. And that puts, as you said, like pressure on this offense and pressure on the whole team to make plays. And they just didn't do that today.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't know. Something about that team that just doesn't, like they had like last year they seemed to have a little bit of a spark, like they went out there and they did what they wanted to do, but
we'll see if the next few weeks changes things for them. The Eagles were up 17-0 on the Washington football team, and it fell apart. What went wrong for
Yeah.
Philly here?
I don't really have an answer. I would argue that it's not what went wrong for Philly, it's what happened for Washington. You know? They played well.
Here's actually one of the more interesting pieces about this game. Is the Washington defensive line one of the best in the NFL already? Just because they brought in Chase Young. They had 8 sacks today.
Yeah, but it's 8 sacks against a terrible. Actually, I will say this. The Eagles are already like, we thought the Eagles were limping last year down the line. Eagles are already limping to start this season.
Because they don't really have their full strength of receivers still.
Anyone to work with. They don't have many at O-line. I mean, they've lost. They're basically playing second string O-line.
Yeah.
Because of how many players tapped out for the season.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's not and I believe that's one of the reasons why we had so many teams that usually don't win putting up surprising wins.
Yeah.
And why the teams that didn't have a ton of tap outs are being pretty dominant, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
it's kind of the same thing. It's like, what are you, right? And like, do you have continuity with your team or do you don't? And especially in this kind of year where we didn't have preseason, that's pretty important. I want to highlight one thing about this game too. Dwayne Haskins played a beautiful game.
Yeah,
the first half wasn't amazing, but the second half was phenomenal. There's something about Ron Rivera's coaching style that I think fits Haskins a lot. And I'm sitting there going, okay, Haskins is their guy. And if this defensive line plays as good as they did, which I think is pretty unrealistic, but if they even play half as good, Washington can win some games here. And they might not even be as bad as we think.
Yeah, I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but
No. But I think they can definitely bump up some wins.
Yeah.
With the Colts and the Jaguars, we got some fans in that game. Are you concerned for Phillip Rivers? Because that fourth quarter was pretty bad.
I'm not concerned because that's kind of what we know, and I mean, think about it. That's what we know Phillip Rivers to do.
Right.
He just kind of fails. I mean, no offense, but
you know, in a Jags team too, that we know what the Jags are this year. We know
that Jags team surprised me, frankly.
In what way?
In that actually, the one thing that I learned is that I already knew. It confirmed to me that Minshew is a legitimate threat as a quarterback. Like, people need to take him seriously.
Is it that, or is it that the Colts defense is not necessarily amazing?
No, I think it's that they need to take him seriously.
I still think he's a bridge quarterback, and I still feel like, yes, he has good games, but throughout a 16 game season, he's just inconsistent. You're going to have games like today, and then you're going to have games that are just brutal. This happened to be one of those games where he played well, and that was it. Ultimately, that was it to me.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. I don't see Minshew being a long-term option, and I got to be honest, Doug Marrone and this coaching staff don't feel it either.
Well, I don't think Doug Marrone and his coaching staff gets a say in it, because I don't think Doug Marrone and the coaching staff are going to be around long enough to say it.
Yeah,
I don't know why Doug Marrone is even still there. The man is a failure as a coach.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I think they needed a huge coaching change, and they didn't have it.
Yeah.
Okay, Mitch Trubisky, right?
Another very weird game.
Why does Mitch have these games? I don't understand
Not a
it.
good quarterback.
But hang on a sec. I understand that he's a really bad quarterback. We get that. He's not good. But why is it? Especially division games. I know he's done this consistently against the Lions. But why is it that he does find ways to get 3 touchdown games or play well in a second half to win a game? Why does he show flashes of brilliance, but yet he's so inconsistent that even in that first half, I went there and said, overthrown ball, overthrown ball, overthrown ball. And in the second half, I was like, okay, that's solid. Why does Mitch play like this? Where's the camaraderie? Where is the identity with him as a quarterback? Why was the first half what we expect from Mitch and the second half be, oh, it's just the one flash in the pan? Why is it like this?
I think it's kind of like what you said about Brady. I think it's sort of mental, except unlike Brady, he doesn't have the ability to fall back on, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I believe that Brady would be like Mitch Trubisky if Brady didn't have that just natural talent.
Mm-hmm. It's so weird to see how Mitch is playing it. And then on the Lions side, Stafford felt like he was a different player today.
And Stafford is coming off a big injury plus a lot of stuff going on in his life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt today.
I'll be with you on that. I think he's a much better quarterback than what he showed today.
I also don't believe that. I really, really don't want to mark this game down as a loss for the Lions because, frankly, that should not have been a loss for the Lions.
No, absolutely not.
Stupid wide receiver who dropped the ball.
It was DeAndre Swift, the rookie, the second-round running back.
Which, I mean, again, he's a rookie, so in a way you could say, yeah, jitters, whatever. It sucks, you know?
Yeah, that was rough, though. That was a rough ending for sure.
And like, you could see that he really hit him hard because he spent a few minutes sitting in the end zone after the game ended. And I will say, like, the fact, like, I had a moment where I was watching the Bears celebrating, and I was kind of going, yeah, enjoy it, Bears. That'll be the only win you get this year, probably.
And defensively, they didn't even play that well.
Like, I felt like they shouldn't have been celebrating that much, and it felt kind of classless, honestly. Like, okay, yeah, you didn't really do anything to stop them from winning.
Yeah.
Like, he dropped the ball wide open. Like,
yeah. The Bears defense didn't even play that well today, in my opinion. Let's go into the Packers and the Vikings. This was also bizarre. Aaron Rodgers and this offense also feels rejuvenated in some way.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers today went into what I call Matrix mode.
What is that mode?
Matrix mode, there were 2 quarterbacks who went into Matrix mode today. Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. And Matrix mode is when time literally stops around you, and it is the easiest thing in the world to be a quarterback. Because, oh my God, were those 2 quarterbacks just roasting the ball to their receivers today. Like, I don't think they could have been more accurate if they tried.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
So hang on. For the Packers, is this Matrix mode or is this I hate that you drafted Jordan Love, so I'm going to dominate and show you what I'm about? Is it that?
It very well could be. It could be. I mean, it kind of fits with what I was saying in my definition of Matrix mode. It's like being really dialed in and like just feeling the ball, being the ball. I mean, to be honest, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm not really that threatened by Jordan Love, you know? And if he is, he shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've seen such a weird score for, like...
It was strange.
Like what, like 45 to 20 or something?
It finished 43-34. Here's the deal with the Vikings. Their offense did nothing in the first half. Yeah. And then by some miracle, you know, Kirk Cousins just turns it on. The Vikings can only go as far as Kirk Cousins will take them. And this game showed it today because they could have easily played how they played in the second half and the first half. But even if they're a running team, which they are, Kurt is the reason they're not in Super Bowl contention right now. And I think this game showed it.
Yeah.
Let's go to those Seattle Seahawks. For the last, let's say 3 weeks, we've been talking about this whole let Russell cook movement, let Russ cook movement. And we kind of said, they're not going to let him do it. Schottenheimer's not that kind of OC. Pete Carroll's not that kind of head coach. And they even came out and said, we're not even going to do it. And then they go up against the Falcons, and guess what happens? They let Russell cook. And they absolutely dominate, especially in the second half. The Falcons are pretty good in the first half, but the second half, it was let Russell cook the whole time.
And what was great about it is that it was kind of like a modified let Russell cook, Mm-hmm. Like they did it in a way where they still were playing Seahawks ball, but Russell had more of I feel like he was more in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one who watched that game today could say Russell Wilson was just being a field general. No. He was in charge. He was out there kicking butt, being aggressive, and I think that's the word for the day for the Seahawks. It was be aggressive.
And be aggressive from the jump, especially in the second half. Third quarter started.
Both offense and defense. They were aggressive. They were pushing it. They were going. Like trying. They were so aggressive, so quick that they had to have a play whistle dead because they went before the refs were ready. And I love to see that as a Seahawks fan because for the last 3 years, everyone has pretty much been like, why are you running the ball all the time when you have a quarterback who can just destroy fools? And honestly, I feel, to be honest, it felt like they looked at the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And took a note from the Chiefs and were like, they do this up-tempo sort of throw the ball to their running backs and do all this weird shenanigans. Why can't we? I mean, oh my God, Chris Carson had 24 yards rushing today.
Yeah.
And yet he had 2 touchdowns through the air.
Here's the interesting part about this for me. To finish up the offensive side.
Yeah.
Chris Carson only running half the time is going to benefit him long term because he can probably actually play 16 games.
Yeah.
And then 2, when you're talking about aggressiveness for the Seahawks, Jamal Adams is that person that sets that defense up for success. Because they didn't have that last year. They didn't have that one guy that's just, I'm going to go hit my head in a wall and just hit people like crazy and run around all over the field and absolutely ball out. And to have a defensive player that does that for them, even if it's just one person, and that one person being Jamal Adams, the defense can be 10 times better.
Well, what Jamal Adams does for the Seahawks is I think I said this to you in the chat, but the way he played today reminded me a lot of Cam Chancellor.
Right. Yes, that's a perfect example.
He's that guy that allows for the Seahawks to be able, by having a guy like that as the captain of the secondary, being in the backfield and kind of locking that down, it allows for the linebackers to do their thing. The Seahawks are now with the guy like Jamal Adams. They are now able to do defense the way the Seahawks want to do defense.
Right.
Which they have not been able to do since 2015.
And it's not about the D-line, it's about the secondary.
It's about working backwards from secondary and being like, okay, you have a great secondary locking down it back there so that Bobby Wagner and the linebackers don't have to worry about the secondary so they can just do their thing. And you saw that today. I mean, you saw way more blitzes than I've seen the Seahawks run ever.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, there was a part of me that was like, just looking for where Jamal Adams was going to pop up next.
Yeah.
So it's. I'm trying not to do the whole like week one like they're gonna dominate thing, but I mean they
look different.
They
The
look,
best way to put it is that they look different in the best way possible.
Different and deadly.
They look different in the best way possible.
Yeah,
definitely. I'm not saying sit here and overreact. I'm saying just take it like it is and say, okay, they look different. Can they do this consistently?
And it's the first. It's honestly, it's the first week that I've seen the Seahawks where literally everybody across the board in social media and the media has said, "Holy shit, the Seahawks team is like, badass.
It's different. It feels different." And then I want to also go to the Falcons side as well because two things are interesting to me with them on the offensive side. One is Matt Ryan being Matt Ryan. The guy's still very consistent and very good. But two, Todd Gurley was nice today. Let's not lie. He played well today, and it was good to see him play well.
And that it also kind of exposed a little bit of problems the Seahawks need to fill, which is their run defense. But Gurley played well. Gurley played very well, and I think part of it has to do with the way he was used.
Mm-hmm. In what way do you think he was used differently than in LA?
In LA, it seems like he was just kind of like the grinding back, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were like, oh shit, we have this one big superstar player. We're just gonna use him over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all they did was run the ball with him, it seemed, at times.
Mm-hmm.
And in this game, you saw it seemed like they used him in chunks. At times, they used him, and then they would throw the ball, and then they would use him again a little bit, and then they'd throw the ball. And you saw him a lot on the goal line. I mean, he had one play where it was classic Todd Gurley, where they handed the ball off to him on the goal line. He came up. He got stopped before the goal line, and then he pushed forward a little bit, jumped, like reaching over to get the touchdown. And at first I thought it wasn't a touchdown, but then they showed it from the side angle, and I was like, well, that's pretty classic Todd Gurley being able to get that push to put the ball over. So
mm-hmm. I want to go back to another play in the Lions game, too, that we forgot to mention. Jamie Collins headbutting the referee to explain what actually happened. I don't believe that deserved an ejection.
I mean, by definition, that was just though, if you're following the rules,
I guess, but he was trying to prove a point. I guess this is what made it funny. Like, the more I watched it, the more I laughed at it, because I sat there going, okay, he's just trying to explain something. He doesn't need to be ejected for trying to explain something. You know? But I thought it was a pretty funny play.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Jets and the Bills now. Are you more excited about the Bills after this game? Now, obviously, it's the Jets, but are you kind of still on that Bills hype train, especially after this game?
I mean, I kind of learned nothing from this game, to be fair. All I learned is that the Jets are really bad still.
And Sam Darnold regressed. Sam Darnold regressed.
Unfortunately.
I hate to say it, but he's regressed. Like, he looks in so much distress. It's just ridiculous. He's not the same quarterback he was last year. No. And that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say that what Darnold is right tonight, is his fault. This team with Adam Gase as head coach is just a burning fire waiting to be extinguished.
Yeah.
Which, I'm sorry, that's a pretty bad term right now, but you see my point.
I'm just waiting for the day that someone half decent takes over as in charge of the Jets.
Let's have someone actually take it over. I'm sorry for using that term, but all I'm trying to say is that this just looks disgusting.
Yeah.
It looks gross. And it's unbearable to watch, honestly.
It's pretty bad.
Joe Burrow's debut. Your overall thoughts on his debut?
I thought it actually was one of the better debuts for a rookie quarterback that I've seen. He had some sloppy moments, but that's to be expected. Bengals looked better than they had in the past. I think they look like they're on a path to being, I believe they're definitely going to have more wins this year than they did last year.
Yes.
I would give them maybe 2-3 years before they're winning their division.
And I feel like their head coach is actually taken Joe Burrow on his side and said, "We're gonna make you play like yourself." Now, obviously, it was a weird game because Tyrod Taylor looks ugly for the Chargers. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. The defense is brutal. Obviously, and honestly, a couple pieces that stood out to me in this game was Joe Burrow is going to get sacked the most in the NFL this year.
Oh yeah.
He's going to get sacked more than Deshaun Watson. That offensive line is so horrible. He's going to get sacked before he can even do anything. And that's a tough feeling for him. But also, that game, to me, the major highlight for me of that game was the ending. Because I watched football. Hang on. Hey, let me explain why. I've literally watched football my whole life. I've literally seen everything. But I've never, ever seen a kicker missing a 31-yard field goal.
That poorly.
Because he pulled a muscle. I've never seen that before. It's going to take me weeks to get over that.
I have an explanation for that. Ready?
Go.
Ready? I think you know what I'm going to say.
No, I don't.
Preseason football.
No preseason football? Is that why?
Yes. Think about it. When it's about repetition. I mean, I get that they do a lot of kicking in the camp, but I'm surprised there was not more injuries today.
So your explanation with that wacky moment that made no sense to me at all was
no preseason.
Yes. Even though it's kicking.
Yes.
And you need to have your muscles loose before you kick.
Yes. I know.
It's gonna take me weeks to get over that play.
I've never seen someone shank a football so badly. It went.
I've seen kickers miss field goals worse than that, but I've never seen someone pull a muscle.
Yeah. Do you think
he's in the follow through?
Do you think he planted weird or?
I don't know. Every replay showed that it felt normal. And I just sat there, literally for 5 minutes I sat there in just massive disbelief at what happened.
Yeah.
Because I literally was like, okay, overtime, here we go. And then he pulls a muscle. Kevin Harlan was on the commentary for that game, I believe, right? And he's just screaming, he pulled a muscle. And I'm sitting there going, you're kidding, right? You're kidding.
It's just
it makes no sense.
Watch the commentary on Red Zone when that happens because
I know that. Yeah.
After he's just like, well, okay then. And the look on
Scott Hansen.
No, the Bengals quarterback.
Burrow. He was
the look on Burrow's face was like, what just happened?
That was me for 5 straight minutes after that. What just happened?
It's like it's absurd. Never.
It makes no sense. I think I see everything in football, and then I just see something that makes me go, huh? That was one of those moments.
Yeah.
That was so bizarre. The final game of the Sunday slate that we didn't talk about is Raiders-Panthers.
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs is Vegas.
Yeah. He's pretty great.
He makes that offense run, not Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Was that kind of your main takeaway from that game?
Yeah. It is pretty obvious that Josh Jacobs is the man of the hour in the eyes of Gruden.
Yeah. And then for the Panthers, Tyrod, or excuse me, not Tyrod, Bridgewater.
Not that bad.
Sweet game.
But with the Panthers, can we talk about the fact that how badass their coaches?
Yeah, Matt Rule's awesome. I love Matt Rule. And Joe Brady's fun too. The only thing I thought was strange was I felt like McCaffrey wasn't really in the game plan.
Yeah. Also, for some reason, they handed the ball off to their fullback.
Oh my God, that one play in the fourth quarter?
Fourth quarter.
That
on
was
the goal
so
line.
weird. They gave it to their fullback. I was like, huh?
Yeah.
That needs some adjusting. Look, I understand that Matt Rule's all about the quarterback, but when you have Run CMC back there, and I'm not saying this just because he's on my fantasy team. I repeat, I'm not saying this just because he's on my fantasy team. When you have a running back as good as him, use him more, please.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Use him more. Teddy's not going to win you games. Christian McCaffrey will.
Yeah.
It's that simple. All right, and then let's go to the Monday games. We begin 4:10 p.m. Pacific, ESPN doubleheader. We begin with Steelers-Giants. Expectations for Big Ben in this one?
Man, it's been a long time.
It feels like forever.
Since we've seen Big Ben take the field.
It feels like forever.
It's been literally since Big Ben got hurt, we saw the Steelers go from a crappy team to a okay team.
Yeah.
Their defense got better. Craziness in their division, with the whole helmet swinging stuff, and I don't know. I mean, apparently his arm is
better than ever.
Yeah, but we'll see. I don't know. I think he's someone, in my opinion, who's past his prime, but
is this the right test for him? Probably not. But at the end of the day, at least if we see something from Big Ben, we're going to be happy, I think, ultimately.
Yeah.
Because defensively, they're a great team defensively. If offensively, they can put the pieces together, and this is most important, stay healthy. On offense, they're a playoff team, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
They're a playoff team. If Big Ben is what they say he is, this defense is already top 2 or top 3 in the league, and everyone else stays healthy on offense, then this team can make the playoffs. Even with this division, which honestly is not even that good. The Browns aren't that good. The Ravens are the Ravens. They're the best team in the league, in my opinion. And the Bengals are the Bengals. It's just what it is. And then Titans-Broncos. This is Drew Lock's coming out party for me. I need him to play well. I want to see him play well. I want to see what strides he made. But on the Titans side, they picked up Clowney, which I don't think we really talked about much. They picked up Clowney. So what is your expectations for this Titans defense? Do you think they get better with Clowney?
Personally, I don't think we're going to see a ton of Clowney.
You don't think so?
Considering how recently they picked him up.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I mean, he's someone who really only does well when he's blitzing, you know?
Yeah.
And
He's
it'll be
not much of
interesting.
a cover linebacker. And then on the offensive
Yeah,
side
yeah.
for the Titans as well, this is going to be an interesting matchup for me because the Titans, you got Tannehill. I want to see if he's improved or what this offense looks like because we know this offense can be run by Derrick Henry anyway. But this Broncos defense losing Von Miller might be a little bit more interesting in that piece. What do you feel like for the Broncos defense as well without Von Miller? Are they as good as a defense as they were before?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? I look at Bradley Chubb to be that guy. And then on offense, what are your expectations for Tannehill in this game?
Man, I think Tannehill, it'll be interesting because I think if Tannehill can pick up where he left off last year,
Mm-hmm.
it'll tell us a lot about him, whether he's like truly the guy, you know?
Yeah,
Like if he's really made that jump from an okay quarterback to like a pretty good quarterback.
especially now he's got the bag. He's got that money.
Yeah.
All right, fantasy MVP or fantasy stars MVP nominees. I nominate Nyheim Hines. He had 27.3 points. Nyheim basically was their offense and an interesting running back group for Indy moving forward because Nyheim is a great player. Jonathan Taylor's going to get more run now. But I nominate him. Shane nominates, of course, the guy with the most point totals of today, other than quarterbacks, Davante Adams. He had like 41 points on the day. Brannan, what is your nomination for the MVP?
I'm gonna go with Russell Wilson.
You're going to go with Russell Wilson. Pretty
He ended
self-explanatory.
up with 31 points. He had just a hell of a game. 31 for 35, 4 touchdowns, 322 yards, no interceptions.
Yeah. And that is it for our post show. First of the year on Sunday. Hope you all enjoy that. Hope you all are staying safe, of course, with everything that is going on in this crazy world. It's nice to have football to kind of take our minds off all this crazy stuff. A lot of stuff happening around here, of course, with the fires, which have been really tough for everybody. And then, of course, with everything else happening across the country, not only weather-wise, but, with COVID and everything. So it was definitely good to have football back.
Very much so.
Yeah. All right. And that is it for tonight. We will see you back on Friday. And then expect a post from me tomorrow, or I'm sure you will see this on Monday morning. So tomorrow night you will get our Fantasy Stars MVP picks for the Monday night doubleheader, and that should be fun as well. So we will see you on Friday. Have a great day, everybody, because since we're doing this on a Monday, have a great day, and we will see you all on Friday.